Mangalapia is welcome to the prayer Ankh. Look in your program. We're going to follow that as much as we can. I don't have my glasses with me here.
Remember, you got two pairs, remember?
Yeah, I know, and I don't know if either one of them are. So, want to make sure mention the one who's doing the Saviet today.
Okay, you want me to do it? You want to do lift every voice first?
Yeah, but I just want to mention her and what it's going to be on. Yeah.
We're doing our Saviet today.
And it's on.
It is on the art of communication. I'm talking. Did you hear me?
See? And you see how she said that? I'm talking. Did you hear me? Yeah. I'm talking. Did you hear me? Well, yeah, so I think we're gonna, get it at. So thank you.
Well, in the younger generation form, we said, I hear you talking, but do I feel you?
Oh, look out now. All right. Because that was what's going on in our culture is the call and response was one of the ways of teaching. So when I was doing this, and then I told y'all to do that with your feet, hey, I'm talking, do you hear me? Okay. So we're going to go, Mama, we're going to go with the top of the program. Lift every voice and sing.
You want to lift it? Yeah.
Is that where we are?
That's where we are.
Okay, who's leading that puppy?
Well, we have Eunice here today.
Uh-oh.
Who hadn't been with us in a while, so Eunice is.
Oh, we got
Eunice
Mama
knows
Eunice
it.
lead to lift every voice and sing.
Well, it's not going to be the best voice, but it's
Oh, no, don't start. Don't start.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the roaring stream. Sing a song full of
Sing a song full of the hope that the presence has brought. Facing the
rising sun
of a new day begun. Let us march on to victory is won. Stormy the road we trod, clear the chance we run. Upon the day.
Come to the place for which our
this flag of mine.
The red, black, and green.
The red, black, and green.
Hopes in its future bright.
Hopes in its future bright.
Africa has seen.
Africa has seen.
Here's to the red of it.
Here's to the red of it.
Great nations shall know of it.
Great nations shall know of it.
In time to come.
In time to come.
Red blood shall flow of it.
Red blood shall flow of it.
Historians shall write of it.
Historians shall write of it.
Great flag of mine.
Great flag of mine.
Here's to the black of it.
Here's to the black of it.
400 million back of it.
400 million back of it.
Whose destiny depends on it.
Whose destiny depends on it.
The red, black, and green of it.
The red, black, and green of it.
Oh, flag of mine.
Oh, flag of mine.
Here's to the green of it.
Here's to the green of it.
Young men and women shall dream of it.
Young men and women shall dream.
Face shots and shells for it.
They shots and shells for it.
Maidens shall sing of it.
Sisters shall sing of it.
Waving so high.
Waving so high.
Here's to the whole of it.
Here's to the whole of it.
Colors brought and pole of it.
Colors brought and cold of it.
Pleased is my soul with it.
Please is my soul with it.
Regardless of what is told of it.
Regardless of what is told of it.
Thanks to God and Garvey for giving it.
Thanks to God and Garvey for giving it.
Ashe. Brother Kwame and I are going to do libations. Brother Hatem to hold the plant up for us.
Okay.
Thank you. We'll all stand as we call in our ancestors. That creative energy, that creative spirit that we are all a part of and a manifestation of, we'll say,
Ashe.
I'd like to do an offering. It's called the Hetep Dinasu. It's what our ancestors would do to pay homage to their ancestors. So I begin by saying Hetep Dinasu. In Amun, Nun Patah, Shu Tefnu, Geb Nu, Kepri Ra Atun, the seer Set Heru, Set Nebethet Ampu, Jehuti, Maati, Maat, Yef Peren Keru, Te Enquet, Ka Memenet, Rem, Aped Shesu Minket, Ketnabet Neferet Wabet, In Anket Necheru, In Kayin, Imahiu, and now we will call upon our ancestors.
Yes, it's called our personal ancestors, or ancestors that you want to join us, like Elder J, Elder Phyllis Rose, Elder Donaldson, Elder Archie,
Mr. Julia Walker.
and we'll say Ashe. All we do are for our children,
Ashe.
our Watoto. So it's for to the Watoto that are here, the Watoto that has left us, the Watoto that are on the way. And we'll say Ashe. And we stand here, ancient people, old people, people that have been around for a long time. We pour to ourselves and we'll say
Ashe.
Okay.
And in honor who are yet to join them, and for those who are yet to follow,
have permission from the elders to continue? One of the things we want to bring to light, Brother Kwame, thank you for that. In the language of the ancient. So we take a look at that from time to time. What I'd like to point out here, if it's okay, is that the black candle represents the unity, but the unity of the oneness. And notice that before we come into consciousness, we were in what is that called a darkness, or in that state of mind. Then the light we come into, then we only stay there for so many hours. And then we have to go to sleep, which means we go back into that state, just like the sun. It rises, although we know it's circling, but still it rises in the horizon and it goes down in the descent. So it's that consciousness of becoming aware of what you're doing, and then going back to sleep to contemplate that and grow on what that experience was. So the black and the red candles represent that. In 365, the number 365, the 3 represents the Kemetic understanding of the 4 months that add up to 4, 4, and 4, which is 12. And the 6 would be the 3 green and 3 red, or 3 red and 3 green, because it's understood we possess the unity. We are the ones who bring that into consciousness and bring that about. And the 5, of course, is something else I'll explain that later. But Mama Lona, is that okay? All right. So we're going to say what we know. We're just going to light them and get going. Okay. I'm going to touch Mama Lona's shoulder here.
Okay.
During Kwanzaa, we did this. Oh, we'd like to say, in our culture, you cannot have the candles without the mat, because the mat represents the earth, the land of Africa. And it gets confused where people just put candles up or just put the, what they call them, the Kanara up. But in our culture, if you have the candles and the Kanara, you have to have the mat, because it represents the land. And the people on that land is the Kanara and their principles. Okay, so thank you.
So we'll light them all. We'll start by saying, Tuna Washa Mashuma He.
Tuna Washa
Mashuma He. And
what we do?
Moja, Uchagalia, Ujima, Ujaba, Nia,
These kind of long.
Kumba, and Imani. Asante. Oh, yeah, someone.
Yeah, it's gonna like it.
One's going out.
Trying to get extra.
One's going out.
Oh.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
No.
And that's a true test of the communication. Y'all say it and we listen.
Yes. We will. We'll read the.
Mom is great.
No, we're reading the evocation. We continue to call in our ancestors with our evocation. You can find it on page 7. We can read it together. Oh, you see it? The voice calls forth the great spirit, the creative power of the universe that gives and sustains all existence forever. Let us adore a moon who, though hidden, is the source of all life, all power, and all health. Let us hail Ra, the sun, the highest or visible manifestation of spirit that rises on the eastern horizon as Kepra, the self-creating one, who shines down at midday as Re, the eternally creating one, and goes down on the western horizon as Atum, the complete one. Let us revere Ka, the nature and form creating one. Let us call with seer, to whom we give our dead for everlasting life. Let Jehudi, nature of good speech, intelligence, and writing, teach or inform us. Let us worship Nu, the sky, the divine mother, who stretches forth from horizon to horizon, giving birth to all that comes into existence. Let us obey Ma'at, divine sister, who imbues the universe with order, harmony, balance, truth, justice, righteousness, reciprocity, and love. The voice calls forth the ancestors, for by the spirit and the spirit of our yet unborn children, who will carry forth our seed for eternity. Now let this community unite in the celebration of the African spirit and the rededication to another cycle of Ma'at, right thinking, and right doing. Ashe. On page, Levita, would you read for us on page 8, the announcement?
You want to read the whole page?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we'll ask people if they have anything to add.
Okay. Number 1 is the per Ankh service on February 9th, March 8th.
All right.
Second Sunday at 11:30. Number 2, we have Divine Conversation. That's January 26th and February 23rd. The fourth Sunday at 10 a.m. And on number 3, we have Tawi ASCAC Study Group, and that's every Friday at 6 p.m. right here at APDS. Okay. And Tawi Beginning History class is also every Friday at 6 p.m. here at APDS. The Meta Nature Study class online is Tuesdays at 8. And the G&J Mall is on temporary hold at the moment. Tawi Association for the Study of Classical African Civilizations, parentheses, ASCAC, is seeking members. Join us on Friday, 6 to 8 p.m. at APDS. Elder Marilla Kelsey's new book, So You Want Liberation, can be purchased from Zawadi Books, which is located at Illumala's house now. Please sign up for Per Ankh service committees, music and talent, food, marketing, fundraising, Watoto. Facility contact is Elder Alona. 614 Tawi Family Village. We're bringing Benachi. He's the author of the book we are now reading in our ASCAC study group, which is a rather lengthy title that I cannot recall.
Well, I'm going to get the book.
You got the book, okay. And see, on Friday, or Nia, he'll be here for study for the 8th from 10. Starting at 10 a.m., we'll be doing a meet and greet with the author, and at noon we'll break for a free catered-in lunch, and then we begin back at from 1 to 4. Will be the workshop and lecture. And the location is at Millennium Community School. That's on the one that's on Saturday. Millennium Community School, 3500 Refugee Road. And the title of the book is this. Get ready. Deconstructing aspects of the social constructions of race and racism in Western culture. How and why African Americans are educated into a state of dumbness by America's nigger factories. Highlighting the need for African-centered education. And it's how you say that? Akinjede Benachi Montgomery. So he'll be there. You'll get to meet him. You'll get to, get your book. You can get a book and have it autographed. I don't know. Do you know if he's going to have books there?
I would think so. We're going to talk to Zawadi Books, to bring books, and when Kwame and I talk with him, we'll also ask him if he would bring books.
Also, the location for the 7th.
The location for the 7 is here at the ASCAC study group.
Okay, so, and what, the ASCAT, okay, is there.
That's on that Friday night.
And on Saturday, what time do we start?
It begins at 10 all the way to 4. You can come at 10 but 10 to noon it'll be a meet and greet. So if you would like to have a personally meet and greet, have your book signed possibly or whatever, that would be the best time to do that. And then from 1 to 4 will be the lecture / workshop that he'll do. And then see, Sunday is Parak.
Parak.
He'll be
be
here
the
for Parak.
Sabiat.
That be here?
They'll be here.
And that would be here.
And he will also be talking about Sejam, which is to listen, to obey, and using more Kemetic terms on that Sunday. Elder Tony?
Will the sessions be taped and will those tapes be available? If it's a study kind of thing.
We haven't made that decision. There will be taped. I'm not sure about being available.
Okay.
We have to work on that.
And on Saturday, or Kaumba, in Austin, the fee is $10. And that comes with, if you get there by noon, you'll be able to have lunch. And, we'll keep your lunch available until it's gone. So
And I'm going to be hungry.
it includes a free meal with that. So you get to meet the author, get some food mentally and physically, all for $10. You can't even get anything for $10 anymore. Yes.
Can we pay in advance?
Yes.
Now that's something I was trying to get with Ilona about.
And you just need to contact either Elder Alona, Elder Phyllis, Elder Kwame, Nation Builder Kwame, one of the 3 of us.
So if you pay,
So you can pay in advance?
Yes.
Okay. We'll have a discussion.
We have to figure out. Yeah. Okay. That's coming up. The other announcement I wanted to make that's coming up. Start thinking about the Kemetic New Year, which will be at Millennium School in August when we celebrate our New Year. And we're bringing in Infadisi Salim from New York. He's come a couple of times. He always gives a wonderful presentation. He's interactive. So put that on your calendar. That's the first weekend in August.
It's not the same person?
Infadisi?
Yeah.
No.
Banachi is coming in from Detroit. Infadisi is coming in from New York. 2 different Kemetic scholars. They both teach the language. They both have traveled to Africa numerous times. They both steeped in African culture, Kemetic culture, and they both are members of ASCAT, and they approach Kemetic thought from different directions, which is very good, which will be very interesting. Elder Aziza's birthday was January the 5th.
Oh,
Nation Builder Navita's birthday was January the 9th. Nation Builder Kwame Keechler's birthday is January the 15th. And Sister Elder Pam Swan's birthday is coming up on January the 23rd. One other thing that we didn't put on here, and I hope Elder Tony goes along with me doing this, is at Kwanzaa, we introduced to the community
I go along with whatever you say.
7 new members, although they've been around for a while. That's how we
20 years.
the village. And they are Nation Builder Navita, Nation Builder Kwame Keachler, Nation Builder Devin Shaw. Trying to do this by age, but I'm kind of lost now. Nation Builder Hatim. Nation Builder Taiwan Russell. Nation Builder Allende West.
How come he got all that? I didn't get all that.
He was drunk.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
let me see. Okay.
I wanted the drum roll.
Your daughter
It's,
did that.
it's Elder.
Renee.
I know Elder Renee Twiggs,
Get
but I
the
want
other
to
name.
get his
Mutape
Mutape Kenyatta. Yes.
Lon has a good memory.
This one that I was like saying, I think Kenyatta. What's the first one? Mutape Kenyatta. So, I think that is. Are there any other announcements from the community? Elder Eunice?
You said something, I was trying to get it this morning about a wellness and health boot camp on the 25th of January.
Okay, yes. I'm in another organization, the Central Ohio Club of NAMBPW. We are one of the nonprofit partners with the Diva Movement. And the Diva Movement is having Women's Wealth and Health Expo on January the 25th. If you go out to our Facebook, Central Ohio Club, or my Facebook page. Oh, and I also sent out an email, I think. Did I send?
It wouldn't let me pay on PayPal. I don't have PayPal.
Oh, okay. So I will, well,
It was on Eventbrite.
it's on Eventbrite also, so you can definitely pay for it on Eventbrite. And when you do it on Eventbrite, just they'll ask you what organization told you to say Central Ohio Club. So yes, that is definitely coming up. That should be good. The Diva Movement is with Noni. I'm gonna say Noni. I want to say Noni Banks, but that's probably her previous husband's name. I don't remember her husband. You know, husbands' names change.
Oh, really?
Yes, they do. Any other announcements? If not, we will. Oh, yes, I do. On a transition note, Elder Clifford is not here today because his mother made her transition on Thursday. So then he went down to Cincinnati, and he thinks the earliest any services will be is next Saturday. But I'll let people know.
In Cincinnati.
I would think, because most of his sisters and brothers live in Cincinnati, and the mom was in Cincinnati, so it'll probably be in Cincinnati. I think I told elders on yesterday, but I'll mention it to our community and our nation builders. Elder Mariba sent a message saying, okay, elders, you got your goals. I want to hear our nation builders' goals for Tawi for this year. So I think that's it. Oh, we did announcements. Praise to the moon. We will say, Elder Barbara, would you read Praise to the Moon for us, please?
Sorry, what page is it on?
Page 3.
You want us to stand?
Oh, yeah.
We'll all read this together, please. Praise to the moon. All nectars are free.
All nectars are free.
It has ray as a face. Its
Body is the top. The cities of earth are established in perpetuity. Waset, Unu, and the city of the white wall for eternity. A message was sent from the sky and heard in Unu, and repeated seated in the city of the White Wall, my beautiful existence to be set in an official documentation in duties rights concerning in the city of the moon, which possessed their property. The matter was answered in Washington. A statement was issued. It shall belong to the nine. All that came forth from its mouth, the moon's mouth, and measures were established because of it, according to what was decreed. A message was sent. It shall slay and give life, and life and death come from it for everyone, except the next. A moon plus ray plus Fatah, total 3. Dua. Nope, not yet, Elder Robert. There's Jemai. Not yet, Elder Robert. The principles of African spirituality. If you look on our last page, the Tawi per Ankh of Columbus is committed to the following. And we start at the really, really broad, the large, the creative spirit that encompasses all of us, its infinite manifestations, the recognition that that creative spirit is in all of us, the recognition that we are in harmony with spirit, cosmos, nature, and with each other. Then last month we worked to restore African spirituality amongst African people. And that's really fitting for December when we talk about the unity and the things we try to do as a African people. That's our African spirituality. The Nguzo Saba, Kwanzaa. And today, number 6 is the principle of African spirituality for today, the reestablishment of Kemetic as the Egyptian liturgy and calendar for spiritual wisdom. And that's part of what we try and do here, to bring about what we do as an African people, paying attention to our calendar, like we do our Kemetic New Year. To use African, was demonstrated today with with Nation Builder Kwame with the Hotep D-Nisu. That's a reestablishment of Kemetic liturgy. So again, here at the Parank, we want a reestablishment of Kemetic liturgy and calendars for spiritual wisdom. So now, I want to introduce Sister, Mama, Elder, beloved one, Isatu Sanya. She's going to bring us our thought, our message, our Sabayet today on the art of communication. I'm talking. Did you hear me?
Yes. Good morning, brothers and sisters. Good morning. Yes. So, we're going to talk about communication. What is communication? Well, communication is sing their songs, to communicate to each other. Bees do a dance to tell the other bees where the good honey is. Monkeys by the water hole, they make a lot of noise to say danger, 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 danger. So communication is something that is common to all life forms. Among people, we communicate in different ways. And one of the ways that we communicate as an African people is what?
Drum.
The drum. And we're not the only people that communicate by drums. Most culture have a drum system that they used to communicate. The native people of this country communicate with smoke signals. You know, of course, the European had no idea what it was saying. Okay, communication is an activity that conveys information. Which is not really much different from what the animals do. They're saying, hey, something is happening, pay attention. Communication is also the sum of all things one person does when they want to create understanding. Understanding in the mind of another person. It involves a systematic and continuous process of listening and understanding. Because without understanding, there is no communication. I'm going to give you an idea. I travel a lot around the world. When I was in China, my brain would not remember Chinese word. I could not understand what they were saying. I could not let them know what I want. I could not communicate to them. I had no understanding. They're looking at me like, whatever. Okay? Communication can also be defined as giving, receiving, exchanging information, opinion, and ideas. So how do we communicate? We communicate by writing. The Sanskrit. We communicate by print, which is also a form of writing. We also communicate verbally, non-verbally, visually, in artistic ways. Again, the drum is an artistic way of communicating. The important part, again, of communicating is the other person understanding what you're trying to say or what you're asking. Some other ways of communication that modern people use, graffiti. Now some people say, oh, those kids are just messing up the wall. They are sending a message. One of the messages sometimes they're saying is, look at me, I exist. I am important. I matter. Hip-hop music is another way that a generation was communicating by saying, hey, I matter. And these are the things that matter to me. Well, nowadays, there are some new forms of communicating that I have to admit sometimes just boggles my brain. First of all, I don't know how those kids can text so fast, move a thumb up and down the screen so fast. And my daughter, she always say, Mom, you're the worst texter. You always have so many errors. Because my fingers, I always hit the wrong letter. And by the time my eyes catch it, I sent it already.
That's right.
Then they have this thing, what is called, when they send pictures of each other. Anybody know what that's called?
Instagram.
FaceTime. No, there's one that they just send pictures. Snapchat. Okay, and I listen to my granddaughter talk about when I Snapchat my friend. And, okay, are there any words? No. We just send pictures. But to them, it's communicating. I have to confess, I am totally clueless. If I saw a Snapchat, I'm saying, why is somebody sending all these pictures to me? I don't know what you're trying to say. So again, the important part is the person you're sending it to understanding Okay. Also, communication involves emotions and feelings. Even if you sit there and said, well, communication involves emotions and feeling, what am I saying to you? I am still communicating. I'm not really sending the message. And when I said communication involves emotion and feeling, you say, oh yeah. She's really believing what she's saying.
Right.
And unfortunately, sometimes our emotions and feelings can cloud the communication. We can either not display enough emotion that the person really know what we're feeling, or we're displaying so much emotion that they're saying, what the heck, why don't you just sit down and shut up? You know, it's like, oh my God, here we go again. Okay, communication, we can communicate in groups, like I'm now trying to communicate to you, or we can communicate one-on-one. Some of the ways we do this are similar and some are different. So what kind of communication do we have? The biggest one is nonverbal. Okay? Some of the things to do if you're doing nonverbal communication deliberately is look, eye contact, but don't stare.
That comes creepy. That is.
It's a really fine line there. Mm-hmm. You know, if you're just
Right. You be like,
and you know, my granddaughter, she accused me of that all the time. She'd be sitting over there and I look at her, she says, why are you staring at me? He's like, I wasn't really staring, I was just looking. Remember, looking in somebody's eyes, because the eyes are the windows of the soul. The eyes, in and of themselves, are sending messages. Now, ladies, talk about nonverbal communication.
Yeah.
Okay? It's the come hither.
Yeah, I heard it all in your book.
Or you can have the,
right.
you better not even come over here and try talking to me about nothing. And sometimes our body language send a message or communicate a message that we don't intend to. I'm going to give an example. I had a girlfriend I used to hang with, and we used to go clubbing. I still go clubbing. I like clubs, even though I don't drink. And she'd say, watch this. I'm just going to sit here. I'm not going to do anything. And pretty soon, one young man will come over and talk to her. Another young man will come over and talk to her. It's like, what? And she wasn't doing anything over it, but just her persona. Me, on the other hand, I'm sitting there like, what am I? You know, yesterday's stale bread. Knowingly or unknowing me, I was not able to send off that come hither thing. I never was good at it. Still am not good at it. Okay, facial expression is also part of communication. You know, some people come into a room and they smile and they light up the room and you feel good. They haven't done anything or said anything. Mm-hmm. And then other people, they look like, now I have to confess, that's one of my favorite looks. Especially if I'm going to a lecture and I'm like, what are they saying? And you know, it's like, oh, I gotta hold my face back because I am an open book. Also,
It's better to read.
yeah. True. And sometime again, our facial expression can send a message that we did not intend. Okay, body language, still in nonverbal, can and should, if you want to really do good communication, display a sense of confidence. You know, I'm okay with me, I'm okay with you, life is good. Or or it can display the opposite, a lack of confidence. Oh my gosh, you know, hope nobody looks at me, hope the teacher don't call me, you know. And that's my phone, just kill it, shoot it, yeah. it's out of there, yeah, shoot it.
I just thought it was on my device.
Okay, body language can show a concern. If you lean in, what are you saying? You're listening. If you stand over somebody like this, what are you communicating? Power, intimidation. Okay. If you fold your arms up real tight, what are you saying?
Mine made up.
Yeah.
That's it. Leave me alone.
Now, and I have to confess, usually that means your mind's made up, you know, I'm not listening, whatever. Now, I get cold sometimes. And I do fold my hands around me, myself, because I'm cold. So when I'm in a setting, I have to watch that. I have to say, oh, wow, what message am I sending people here? I'm cold, but I better put my hands on a little bit lower. Because communication is a conscious thing. And we're communicating all the time. So we have to be conscious of our body language. Okay, the next part of communication is verbal, which is what I'm doing, which is what we do a lot. A good communicator has to be clear. There has to be clarity in what you're saying. A good communicator has to watch their tone and their volume. Now, women, our voice go up. Sometimes to the point of squeaking. And, you know, then anybody's listening to us, you know, kind of, whoa, she's not in a good place. Volume. Sometimes, on the other hand, men, sometimes when men are upset and they're communicating, how do their voice get? Loud, aggressive. So we have to watch our voice. Now, I'll tell you a secret. Talking to children, if you use a soft voice, that is more effective. Especially when you're talking to the younger children. If they're not listening, you know, don't say, I told you that 100 times. Why aren't you this, that? You know, say, okay, what did Mama just tell you? First of all, they have to lean in. They have to get closer. They have to pay attention when your voice is soft. Okay. And there's a receiver. Okay. As a sender, you need to be clear and concise. Now, sometimes we love to hear our own voice. And somebody say, what color is that umbrella? And we give the history of umbrellas. This is another true story. My daughter's father, he's a historian. And one time I asked him, how did the Jews end up in Europe? I got a lesson from the Abyssinian days. You know what happened? After about a couple of minutes, what am I doing?
Checked out.
Thinking about something else.
I've also done some other not so good communication skills. I'm talking to somebody on the phone and they're just going on and on and on and on and on. Set the phone down. But they're controlling their they didn't notice. If you really want to truly communicate, you need to stick to the point, make it concise. Kind of plan what you're saying, especially if you're in a one-on-one with a friend or a spouse or a child, and you have an important matter that you need to discuss. kind of rehearse it in your head. Okay, now this is what I want to talk about. Sometimes if you're in a setting where you don't know people, sometimes use small talk to get things going. You know, because sometimes when you're having small talk, you learn something about the person, and then you have more to talk about. Okay, as a sender, express your thoughts and feelings calmly. I talked about using loud voice. One of the things that men often have difficulty doing is expressing their feelings and emotion. And it's important, because if you just say, okay, honey, it's okay. Your spouse or the other person really doesn't know how you feel about it. All they hear is an agreement. An agreement sometimes is a way to shut down the conversation. Okay. As the sender should be personable, be confident. Do not, as a sender, use shaming. Now, lots of time, or oftentimes, we use that with our kids. Well, if you don't do this, or do you know, you or blaming. Well, you always do that. You always forget to put the garbage out. Well, yeah, maybe you did. Or maybe what you want is not to blame, but could you please take the garbage out, please? So polite. Be responsible for your own emotions and feelings. Remember, nobody can make you mad, sad, or unhappy. I'm going to say it again. Remember, nobody can make you mad, sad, or unhappy. You experience those emotions by what you tell yourself. But I won't go into that. That's another thing. Know your audience. You do not talk to a teenager the same way you talk to a preschooler. You do not talk to a group. You know, that's why we're the people, we code switch. We have to know our audience. And we must learn to be, as a sender, to be okay with silent. And that's hard, because when there's silence, you must ask yourself, what is right? Is it in, or just to express my opinion? And you know, sometimes I just want to tell you how I feel. I'm feeling fine. Oh, no, that's another. I have an opinion. And we feel that our opinion is important enough to say, this is what I think about what we're talking about. The receiver. First of all, as a receiver, you need to make the decision to listen. Close your mind of clutter. I am going to be listening. Put away your cell phone.
No, not cell phone.
Yes. Now, nothing, I find it very irritating if I am speaking in a group and people are busy. You know, it's like, come on, honey, if you didn't want to hear me, you can leave, you know, but you're disrespecting me. It can wait. Again, avoid judging the speaker too soon. So you get somebody talking and you say, boy, her voice is really monotone. I can hardly wait for this to, and so again, you tune out. I have a motto. If I go to a lecture of any kind, I go with first thing in mind, no matter what the speaker does, I am coming away with something new. I spend my time, I'm sitting here for an hour or two, I am coming. No, sometimes they're boring, the monotone, but I come away, so I listen, because I'm not going to just sit there and waste my time. Okay, be open-minded. Whoa. Lots of times we have already made up our mind what we think about the speaker, what we think about the subject matter, even in a one conversation. Husband, your different other start talking, and they said, "Oh, we need to talk," and you already said, "Oh, whatever." Okay, be open to receive the message that's being sent. Okay, receive the message that's being sent, because remember, what's said and what's heard are not necessarily the same thing. Show empathy towards the speaker. Show that you're interested in something like, I'm a big nodder when I'm in people are talking. Yeah. Remembering that sometimes when you're showing that you're listening, it doesn't necessarily mean that you agree with what the person is saying. But it says, I'm listening. That's something I can think about. And convey respect. At the end, when the person's finished talking, ask questions. Oh, by the way, don't interrupt. Because oftentimes we are so busy with, I want to say this about that, and we butt in. And then we miss what the person is trying to say to us. Okay, one of the most important part of communication is listening. We only remember 25 to 50% of a conversation after 10 minutes. So all this talking I'm doing, some of you are going to forget it in 10 minutes. Now, in listening, lots of us suffer from what I call selective deafness. We know how to tune out people. And I tell people, sometimes we have a teenager. You tell them to do something, they said, I didn't remember. They are telling the truth. You know how I know? Because I remember. My mom told me to do something and I didn't do it because I really act. Listening is an art that requires work, self-discipline. The art of communication springs as much from knowing when to listen as it does from knowing the words to say and the use of silence. Okay, I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about active listening. Okay, we listen for information, we learn to understand, we listen for enjoyment, and we listen to learn. Okay, one of the first things to do when you're actively listening is what? What do you think? If you're active listening, what's one of the first things you have to do?
Being present, attentive.
You have to be present. You have to pay attention. The speaker needs to have your undivided attention.
Yeah.
We already talked about show that you're listening. The nod, the eye contact, the body language. Provide feedback. Okay, so you're in a conversation. When the person is finished speaking, give them some feedback. one of my favorite saying is, now, did I hear you say, did you mean? Because sometimes what you think you heard is not what was said. And I really appreciate you telling me that. I didn't know that when I did or say that, it affected you this way. So feedback is very, very, very important. And part of feedback is also sending iMessage. I didn't understand. Or if you're the speaker, I feel bad when, I felt very frustrated when I had to tell you to do this thing over and over, you didn't do it. I feel, versus you make me feel bad. You're always blah, 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 blah. Send iMessages. Defer judgment. Whether it's in a group or in a public setting, judgment is our enemy. Because when we judge another person, I like to say, you do not know their story. Right. They might have growled at you, but you didn't know that just before they came to you, something bad happened to them. So don't be quick to judge. Ask question. Okay. Now, as a people, one of the things that we do is, and especially, I'm going to go there, women, especially as women, we feel that we can say whatever we want to, because first of all, it's a free country, and second of all, because it's true. But sometimes that does not make for good communication. You know what I'm into meditation and that kind of stuff. And from the Zen point of view, it says, before you say anything, let it pass through 3 gates. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? It may be true, but it may not be necessary for you to say it, and it may definitely not be kind. Okay, so just to wrap up a little bit on active listening, pay attention, show that you're listening, provide feedback, defer judgment, and respond appropriately. Now I'm going to take just a couple more minutes to talk about another kind of listening. This is called compassionate listening. First of all, somebody come to you and they're telling you their sorrows. Don't try to fix it. They usually don't really want your advice. They just want you to listen to them. Be patient. That's another part of compassionate listening. Some people can just say what they want to say, and some people, I really want to tell you this thing, but I'm not sure how to say it. That's where they are.
Right.
So be patient. Don't take the other person's feeling personally. I'm going to say that again. Don't take the other person's feeling personally. It's their feelings. And sometimes you have to take a breath and step back and say, okay, that's where you are. Don't be defensive and feel attacked. Whoa. I'm sorry, brothers and sisters. I've seen that in our group here sometime. Sometimes somebody says something, and before they're finished, people are wiggling, and it's like, yeah, and then they get up, and it's like, okay, people can say what they want to say, but you don't have to feel attacked. If you are assured in your view, if you feel that you're right, somebody can disagree with you, and that's okay. Use reflective technique. I understand that you're hurting right now. It's important. That doesn't make sense to me. Could you explain that to me a little bit better? Again, it's saying that you're listening. And lastly, offer sympathetic ears. If somebody is hurting, sometimes you don't have to use words to be a compassionate listener. All you have to do is give a hug, or sometimes say, hey, I'm here. If you want to talk, I'm here. Any questions? Thank you. Yes.
I have a question. That I sometimes think that when we're listening, we want to change the other person's view. You can listen and you try and understand, but your response is to change the other person's view. And you said that the other person has a right to their view. Can you just kind of comment on that? Because
we really, deep down in our hearts, we really want the person to agree with us.
Yes.
But the reality is that even though I don't agree with it 100%, I can understand why you think that way, even though I don't think that way. And to think that we really have the power to change somebody's view, I think it's erroneous. People change their view when they choose to. We can give them information that may make them look at things differently. But people only change their views when they make a conscious choice that, I used to think that way. Now I'm going to think this way.
I'm going to want you to repeat your 3 gates of Zen.
Okay.
That is so critical. Oh, it's so critical. What we just, Elder Alona just brought up, it escapes me. So if you could just go through your 3 gates of Zen, that'd be fine.
Okay. What Elder Alona, she was saying that when we're talking to people, we want to change their mind.
Oh, yes, that brings it. Okay, so oftentimes I don't know.
I know.
Explain the consistency between a person, quote unquote, we're being ready to change their mind, and at least my train of thought is, of course, working with children over the years, and when I was sighted, the one way I knew that the child finally got what I was talking about, and I mean, anybody in this room can tell you see the light come on in their eyes. I mean, it's just like, bam, it's there. And it's not so much, at least to my understanding, that a child's making a conscious decision to understand as much as it is their brain is finding the links to grasp on to what you're trying to communicate. And when those links have all connected, then you see that light come on. But even as I speak, underlying all that is the conscious idea that I want to understand what you're saying.
The readiness is, yes. You know, and with the young brains, you know, we're doing more molding then. You know, and they start with limited information, and we're giving them more and more and more information. And as they get older, you can see them processing it. Okay, this I will accept, this I will reject. Right? So you know, we're still just giving them information. They're still making the choice. Okay, so back to the three. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary?
TKC.
Okay, any other questions?
I just want to say,
Yeah,
I really appreciate your talk today, because I'm speaking for myself. I am guilty of just about every last one of those. And so I'm working later, we back friends. We don't
I appreciate your talk today too, because I've been trying to, my thing is, like sometimes, like in our group sometimes, like we say stuff and we hold on to it. So next time, you come, you build it, you never get past where you were so that you can go where you need to go. And because a lot of times, like you said, we're trying to make people think the way we think. And so I'm going to keep that in mind, like you don't know the person's story. The Allens, and so if we don't listen, and we'll miss opportunities.
A very important part of communication is being present. Be in the here and now. And that's part of mindfulness. I mean, I'm into mindfulness. Lots of time we're either mad about something that happened way in the past, or we're worried about something that's going to happen tomorrow. Guess what, folks? We only have the millisecond. Each millisecond. That's it. We cannot go back and undo the past. And we cannot create the future. We can create the present that may impact the future, and the past may affect how we behave today. But if we don't learn to live in the present, and when we're communicating with each other, if we're holding on, or we're trying to decide, well, since she did that, I'm not going to talk to her the next time she comes, blah, 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 blah. We are missing the opportunity to communicate and connect in the present.
Yeah.
I got a little excited about that. Yes,
One more
last
thing I'll say. Yesterday, and I think the only person, Elder Tony and Elder Barbara were here, and we were in a circle, and I thought we should express disappointment about something she felt had not been done that showed compassion to her. And everyone listened, and everyone said that we loved her and everything. But then different members expressed challenges that they had faced at the same time she was going through what she did. And no one tried to defend what they had or had not done. They just listened. It was good. So I have seen some mature examples of what you said about being present in the moment, compassionate listening. I've seen those things work. We just need to see them more often.
And it's, it's an art. It's something that we have to work on consciously.
Yes. I really appreciate what you gave today.
Thank you all. Thank you all very much. Now, I'll go back to shoot my phone.
Nation builders in here who can fix that phone.
Yes.
There,
But
a
I'm
couple of
going to
us that-
shoot it, and I don't even know.
Yeah, just said, shoot my phone. Can't get it to stop.
We need to have this discussion like every other month.
Oh.
Yeah.
To remind us of communication.
Yeah. Tawi supports a number of different things. We collect our offering to support those things, such as Kwanzaa, the work we do there, such as Malcolm X, and the work we're going to do with that celebration that's coming up. Bringing Banachi here. We're trying to do the things we need to do. So I will pass around. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. thank you. We collected today $117.50. On Friday night, the study group added per $9.
And that came
Total to $126.50. Thank you. Now, Elder Robert, we're going to do the pledge. Now, Elder Robert, we're going to do the pledge to my aunt. You want me to read it or you want to read it? You going to read it?
They didn't start it off. Can you start it off, Elder Robert?
Start it off by saying my aunt is great.
Pledge to my aunt. My aunt is great.
His
value is lasting.
Very good. It has remained unchanged and unequal since the time of its creator. It is a plain path, even for the ignorant.
My aunt.
Those who violate its laws are punished. My aunt urges moral excellence in all one does, so no fault can be found in your character. My aunt is truth. My aunt is justice. My aunt is righteousness. My aunt is balance. My aunt is order. My aunt is harmony. My aunt is reciprocity. Do that which is right, that you may live long on earth. Speak my aunt. Speak my aunt. Do my aunt in secular and sacred situations. My aunt will ensure a mutually beneficial community and everlasting life. Shemotep.
Please circle up. Please circle up. Circle up. Family forever communicating. Family forever communicating.
That's okay.
He's gonna move down. He's gonna move down.
That's okay.
I'm so glad. Here we go.
Left hand up.
They're communicating over there. They're communicating.
I wanna feel we are family and tell the world we are family and show the world we are family. Take my hand, we are family. My family's up and down here. Stand, we are family. It's a gift. We are family. We're so blessed. We are family. We're the people of Africa.
Oh God.
We're the African family. Family home in the motherland. Family scattered across the sea. Wherever we have gone, wherever we may be, we're the people of Africa. We're the African family. the staying together, to the loving again of our family as a family. Stand up and put your hands together to make a seed, like the symbol of that first spirit that came into its humanity. Your motherland. And raise it high, raise it high above your head. And get kind of a sway through God. Oh, yes, take some. You know how the choir does it. Keep it going. I say what I say. And you know what I say. Oh, no, oh, baby.
How long has he been doing that?
Since yesterday,
Oh, okay.
I was doing the show. Stretch your arms. Stretch your hands. And we are the sweet fruit of an African tree. Now circle your arms. Wherever we may go. Circle again now. Wherever we may be. Now the right arm to the left. I am honored you. Take the hand of the person next to you. Then I'm going to the right. Take the hand of the person next to you. We are family. You should be holding hands with another African. I know sometimes some of us don't even look like Africans, but we're there. Go back further enough, we're there. We are family. Oh yes. Now let their hands go and hold your African self. Hold your African self. Let that spirit started millions of years ago survive everything up until this day. That strong tenacious spirit. Love, forgive yourself for things you think when you weren't strong enough, when you weren't smart enough. Yes, you are. Our life starts right now when we come together as a man. Now open your arms and embrace the African next to you. Open your arms. That's how the ancestors do. I love this world. Very
I know someone doing a Russian dance. Let me get the candle.
Okay, two things.
I'll go.
Amen.
Two things. One, as I looked around the circle, I felt really good. That was a 3-generational family here in the West. I thought, family.
This is a special day. Could everybody come close?
You can roll on up here.
Get your old self. Roll on up here. You retirees to roll up. Come on.
Everybody come in close.
Let me go in the middle.
You flirting with me? Because you hit me in the butt.
Kwame.
Oh, he didn't stick him.
Yeah, he's sticking me. He's sticking me.
Sticking you up?
Yeah, come on.
You want to take a moment of silence?
I'm trying to tell you something.
Moon, although hidden, is the source of our power, our health, and our life. The end is as it was in the beginning. Ashe.
The reason why we do our fingers and not blow it out, because any words that were spoken or anything mentally that was spoken is the same as being blessed and goes up. So we try to have a look at being silent at that point, and that silence, what we've learned and already knew, is this is when we really grow. This is when we come into our oneness. This represents the black candle. 365, or the 3 represents the 4 months of 3 in the Kemetic calendar, in which we use. Okay? So it's 4. And it starts in August when we have our first, then it goes, the next 4 months, then the next 4, last 4 is December. It starts in December. We're in the last 4 right now. The 3 in the 6 is the 3 red candles and the 3 green candles. We are the black candle. We are the unity. We are what, when we communicate with each other, like we've all known today, listening and stuff, we are the black candle. We are the black candle. The other 3 do not come into being unless we are unified in what it is. And it can't just be on somebody white saying something or something like that. It's got to be what we want. That's what we were hearing. And the 5 represents the 5 corners, the 4 corners, and the center. 4 corners, and when you have the 4 corners, that square, and you have that center in there, when you pull up that center, and those lines from the 4 corners reach that center, you have a pyramid. So that's what we look at representing the 365. And that is represented with the mat, mkeka, the kanara, and the candles. You must have all 3 of them in the picture. If it's just the candles, okay, that's cool. If it's the candles and the kanara, okay, that's cool. But when it's us, it's the candles, the kanara, and the mat. The mat represents the continent of Africa and the rest of the world. The kanara represents the 2 original people, and the candles represent the principles. So whenever we look at what we're doing, please take a look at the mat has to be there, because that's where we are now. Right now, that's important. Okay. Thank you.
The baby had something.
Oh yes, go ahead.
You want to say something?
Part of concept is.
Put your hands down, baby. Speak strong.
Part of concept is my favorite part. My favorite part of concept is the candle.
Okay, so we're going to have some food on the other side.
Did you say
Yes, I did.
I'd like to get it in my bag.
We're going to have some food on the other side.
And I'm running.
This has been really good.
Yes,
Thank you. We're going to have divine conversation on the 26th to continue our conversation on listening.
You should have.
See, I'm I gotta let those things. And you hear me.
Well, wait a minute.
You listen, you hear me.
Did you feel our communication that was
I was feeling it. I was feeling it.
See, but I'm trying to tell you, they can't have because if you talk about communication, that's that technical thing out there. So I gotta get that together, that technical part. We're gonna do the technical part. Isn't that right, guys? That's right. Oh, wait a minute. We're gonna do here. Get your drum out right quick. Right. It's never totally dark. Right. And we never totally sleep.
Exactly.
Been in my life when you never started.
Right. In Vietnam. What we're gonna do is a cadence, our cadence. So here we go. So you got. 4. So do We do that 3 times. 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, so just 3 times. So do Get ready. 1, 2, 3, walk. Right. Okay. So then it's faster than that. Okay. So we'll work on that. All right. Let me put this up because I got to get downtown. Oh, let's do it.
All right, family. That's it for today. About to get our grub on. Ready to come in person. I don't know what y'all be doing. But you know, remember to support. You go to the Gye-Nyame chip jar. Go to Cash App, G&J Media, cash sign. Also go to TaweeVillage.org. It's TaweeFamilyVillage.org or TaweeVillage.org. You can donate. Know that we're gonna be raising funds for we are in the Malcolm X Festival fundraising piece of the so we hoping that you will support us. Mr. Giraffe, the APDS Giraffe, is down with our efforts. You want to say something, sir? No, he's down with us, right? He said he want us to raise a lot of money because we want to bring him out so that he can eat grass at that Malcolm X Festival. So, all right, family, if you have any comments, you know, whatever, post them up, like and share. This Brother Hot Tim. I'm out. Where you going, Brother Quad?